Yep,
Yes.
if I were to start trading today, what would you warn me about as a beginner?
What would I warn you about as a beginner? To be fair, I remember when I started out trading, and I think many people start for this reason with trading, right? To get freedom of time, location, but a lot of people especially start for freedom of money. And what I thought is that profitability and becoming a profitable trader would basically solve all my problems.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, all that it actually made me do to get towards that freedom part is that once I had that freedom, it actually like exposes like your biggest demons, and you really get to face yourself, and you really like basically run into a wall, because you always had this idea that once you are profitable, that it would solve all your problems, would fix all your issues, and that you would find inner peace, inner happiness, and that kind of stuff, and that you would live the life that everyone always dreamed of. And once you get to that stage, it's actually not that fulfilling as many people think it would be. And the journey towards that profitability, the journey towards that stage of freedom, it's just so much better than the actual freedom part itself. But I think this could be a topic to elaborate further on outside. What do you think?
Yes, let's go for a walk.
All right.
You can live your life in a crowded city. You can walk along.
People romanticize trading. They think it is fast, high energy kind of skill that you learn, and that gives you all of this freedom. But actually, in my opinion, sometimes, especially in the early days, when no one is rooting for you and you're the only one accountable for your losses, but also, this is also something that a lot of people forget, you're also the only one accountable and the only one that knows about your winners and how much effort it takes to get to those winners. But it can be painfully lonely, to be honest. When we were younger, everyone had someone that was constantly looking over our shoulders. Whether it was your bigger brother, your mom, your dad, your teacher, your coach, your mentor. And when you start trading, that all of a sudden completely changes. Once again, you're the only one accountable for your winners, the only one accountable for your losses. You're staring at charts all day for hours and hours and hours, trying to teach yourself that specific skill. And it takes a lot of effort while no one is rooting for you, no one is supporting you, and no one is watching over your shoulder. And that truly can be quite painful at the beginning, especially if you're not profitable yet, especially if trading doesn't provide you with that freedom of time, location, and money just yet. But at the end of the day, as long as you remember that there are no shortcuts, it can be worth it.
But you do think it's freedom, right?
If you can survive the temporary isolation that comes with it, then I do think it is freedom, because it can get you towards the freedom part, but you do have to survive a long period of isolation. And I do think it is very important that during that period, you also stay close to humanity, because this digital world can be quite painful and quite lonely, especially in the early days, when you don't link with like-minded people just yet, and you're not there where you can travel the world and do whatever you want, whenever you want. So right now I can say yes, it's worth it, it has been worth it, and it does provide freedom, but you do have to survive a very long time of temporary isolation. I spent my whole life playing football, and at some point I decided to make a very big decision. I decided to pursue my own path in the world of trading and investing and leave the world of football.
Wasn't it a scary call to make?
At that time it didn't feel scary at all, I'm gonna be honest. It just felt like the right decision to make. But now looking back in hindsight, it actually was a massive risk that I was taking, because I was leaving structure, I was leaving stability, I was leaving a world where someone is looking over your shoulder, and I decided to start something for myself, which now in hindsight I actually took a massive risk. But at the point that I took that decision, it felt like the right decision in many different ways, I must say. But I also do think that like young, naive courage is also what made me the trader that I am today. And if I didn't make that decision at that time, and I would have continued to trade part-time next to playing football full-time, I wouldn't be where I am today, both freedom-wise, of time, location and money, but also just the man that I became today. So it was a massive risk that I was taking. It didn't feel scary at that time, but it actually was a very scary decision to make. But I'm very, very happy that I made it.
But Yip, how do you stay happy in those early days of trading where you're not even profitable yet?
It's quite difficult because when you start out trading, every single time you see a candle, every single time you see a small pump or dump, or whenever you open a position, whether it's a winning position or a losing position, you get this massive dopamine spike. Honestly, at the beginning, it is like gambling. Literally, it's the exact same because you also don't have a profitable trading system yet. So you get the same kind of emotions as when you gamble, which is also why it's very addictive, even when you're not profitable yet. The funny thing is, the more profitable that I became, the more data I gathered on my system that was proving my profitability, the less dopamine I was feeling, the less addictive it became actually to trade, right? Now, what is very important during those early days when you are starting out with trading in order to remain happy and not let your happiness depend on your trading results and constantly wanting to enter trades just to feel that dopamine, is that you stop feeding that system. Because if you continue to feed that system over a longer period of time and you continue to enter trades just for the sake of feeling dopamine and feeling happiness, that's when you slowly start to become numb.
So it's not even about the wins.
No, it's not. It's just trades in general. Like, whenever you open a trade, whether it's a winner or a loser, you start feeling a lot of dopamine. You start feeling a big rush, especially during the early days. And the longer you start trading, the more boring it becomes because you know that you can't even control the outcome of your trades. And you know that even when you're a profitable trader, you still have a win rate, for example, of, in my case, of around 65%, which means that even if I enter trades, I still lose about 35% of the time. So it makes it kind of boring, and I don't really feel that rush anymore whenever I start trading. And at the beginning days, it's not about the wins, it's not about the losses, it's just about being in trades in general and constantly feeling that dopamine rush, feeling that adrenaline spike. And it's really, really addicting, and you have to stop feeding that system. Now, how do you stop feeding that system? By entering less trades, by only sticking to the high probability setups, by trying to control your emotions, trying to recognize your emotions as well. So recognizing that you are chasing the dopamine spike, that you are chasing those kind of things, and that you're not really trading for the right reasons. And I feel like that is extremely, extremely important. I think we can all agree that by far the greatest gift of this life, this line of work that we are doing with trading, is freedom. And guys, I'm not talking about the freedom of money. I'm talking about the freedom of time, the freedom of location, and the freedom of choice. To do whatever we want, whenever we want it. And I do think that it's good to realize this every now and then, because you can get so caught up in trading, you can get so caught up in trying to make profit and growing your portfolio and trying to make money, that we sometimes forget why we actually do what we do. Which is why last month I decided to go to Cape Town for 2 months. And I did this just to get out of that bubble of trying to make money, the bubble of trying to improve my system, improve my win rate. I just wanted to meet new people, experience adventures, and just experience life in general. Because at the end of the day, that's why I decided to make the decision to go from full-time football to start trading, because I wanted that freedom. Freedom of time and freedom of location. And if you forget why we do what we do, and you just focus on profits, and you just focus on making money, then in my opinion, all that we are doing is once again living in that golden cage.
He's so nervous, avoiding all the questions. His lips are dry, our hearts gently pounding.
In my beginning days, I wanted to be right all the time. Every single trade, it felt like a personal test, honestly. But at the end of the day, the market doesn't care about your ego. All that it does is punishing it.
And did it take you long to let go of that?
Well, I had to stop like predicting and I had to start reacting to the market. I had to stop proving and start adapting to the market. And I think those things were quite difficult for me at the beginning. And for me, the change really started when I started realizing that at the end of the day, this is a game of probabilities. And we are going to be wrong a lot of the times. All that matters is that you remain consistent, stick to your system, and trust the probabilities of your system. Once I started realizing that if I have a win rate, like I have a win rate of 65% right now, for example, I'm still going to be wrong so often whenever I enter a trade, because I still lose 35% of my trades as well. And as soon as I started accepting that, that's when the real change started for me. Because at the end of the day, trading is a game of probabilities. And once you start trusting the probabilities of your system and you realize that you can't control the outcome, that's max when I truly started to let go of my ego and just started trusting the probabilities of my system. And in my opinion, that's also when the biggest change came for me, from going to unprofitable to profitable, and going from emotionally attached to emotionally detached from my trades. There's this idea of Nassim Taleb that I feel like every single trader should live by, and it revolves around anti-fragility. And it basically means that some systems, they don't just resist chaos, but they actually grow stronger because of it. What this means for traders is that every single loss, every single drawdown, every single mistake that we make, we should start seeing it as fuel. Instead of trying to avoid the chaos, avoid the pain of losing and that kind of stuff, I actually started embracing it, and I started collecting as much data as I could on every single trade that I took, every single market circumstance that was present at that time. And I tried to trade as much as I could according to my system. And I started gathering data on my system, and that way, over a longer period of time, I improved my win rate from 55 to 66% to 64, 65%, which obviously in this business, in this niche that we are in with trading, that is a massive improvement. And the only reason that I could do that is that instead of avoiding pain, instead of avoiding losses, I actually started embracing them. And I started embracing the chaos, and my system, instead of just resisting the chaos, it started growing stronger within that chaos that the markets basically are.
So your biggest growth came from your biggest pain.
Yeah, but that's just the way that life works in general, right? And people feel like that trading is a completely different thing compared to life, but it's so related, you know? And I feel like a lot of people forget about that. But yeah, it's just like life, man. It's your biggest growth and your biggest moments of happiness, they always come after a longer period of time where you feel a lot of pain and you feel a lot of struggle. It's just the way that life works in general. It's also the way that trading works in general. Marcus Aurelius once said, you could leave life right now, so let it determine what you do, say and think. And now that thought, memento mori, it lives in my head every single day. So if you've chosen this path of freedom, volatility, but also uncertainty, just remember guys, it's not about how fast you win. It's actually about how long you last. Because this journey, in my opinion, isn't about success. It's about who you become because of it.
And that's what really stays with you, right?
Yeah, in my opinion, that's what truly matters.
Love my